UCF needs a hero on Saturday versus BYU, but who can we expect to step up for the Knights?
You are Locked On UCF, your daily podcast on the UCF Knights, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on in to Locked On UCF, your daily UCF podcast. I'm your host, Mike G. Thank you so much for making us your first listen of every single day. Turn us on, turn us up, we'll turn it out. I'm here with my good friend, Andrew Glucov, senior writer at UCFKnightzone.com to talk a little UCF football here. It's Turkey Day. So happy Turkey Day to all who celebrate. Hopefully you are eating until your heart's content. On today's show, we're going to talk about that unexpected hero that could show up for UCF on Saturday. And then special teams is going to have to play a big role, I think, in this game if UCF is going to try to keep it close in the fourth quarter. And then I want to end the show talking about that one big mistake the UCF must avoid in this one if they hope to have a chance to take down the juggernaut, which is BYU this year in the Big 12. Let's jump into it. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel, our title sponsor, guys. Head on over to FanDuel.com, download the app, and new customers are getting up to $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's FanDuel.com. We appreciate them for being the title sponsor of this segment. Andrew, UCF needs a hero. They need somebody to have the performance of a lifetime in this one to not only take down BYU, but to get UCF to a bowl game. 5 wins, 4 wins. You're all 1 win better than last year if you're Scott Frost. So that's just it's a victory, but it's almost a moral victory in my book, like winning 5 games instead of 4. But 6 wins would be an actual victory for this team. Unfortunately, because they couldn't get any of those tweener games in the middle of the season, they are left trying to pull off a massive upset in their season finale. If somebody were to step up in this one to take down the BYU Cougars, who would it be? Because I'm telling you, BYU fans have hit the content hard this week, and they're saying, we're not taking UCF lightly. We understand what's at stake here. They blew it down the stretch last year when they were almost a lock to make the college football playoff, and they don't want to be on the outside looking in going into this one.
Yeah, I mean, BYU is so close. They're still on the outside, but their hope is that maybe a couple of these SEC schools eat each other up and knock one out. If Auburn upsets Alabama in the Iron Bowl, that opens the door.
Auburn will upset Alabama in the Iron Bowl. I'm calling it now. Alabama goes down.
Now, for context, he went to Auburn. My sister went to Alabama. There's contention there. So there's a little bit of contention there. Anyway, BYU's got a lot riding on this. They've got a chance to go to the Big 12 title game. CFP is still in the top. It's still very much up in the air. They can afford to win this game, even if it's ugly, get to the conference championship game, win that game, and it doesn't matter where they are in the CFP. They get the automatic bid. There are options for BYU to get into the CFP, but they're so close. They may get a natural wild card out of this. It really depends how the committee views conference championship Saturday outside of the auto bids. But I digress. This is a tough situation for UCF. They should have already been bowl eligible. They left a couple of games very much on the field to the point where it was almost
most regrettable, Andrew. Of all the games this season, which is the game that's most regrettable?
It was a Houston game. Absolutely.
The space game.
You had a chance to go to overtime and work on winning there. And, you put a quarterback in there that, just kind of wasn't quite ready to throw the ball, didn't have the timing down and threw an interception. Me personally, I would have run the ball and then, settle, if it broke through, great. If not, settle for the kick, hit the reset button on this overtime. Yeah, UCF's defense was beat up, but they were a bend not break. They were still holding their own in short yardage situations against Houston. So that That's all in the past. However, all they can do is what's in front of them, and that's being an over 2 touchdown underdog at BYU. And they're going to have to play essentially the perfect game. They are not the better team. Let's not delude ourselves of anything. UCF is not the better team, but the better team doesn't always win. That's why they play the game. Any team can win any game on any given day. So UCF is going to have to play almost to perfection. And while most people are going to say the quarterback is going to be the source point for this, I disagree. If there's one guy that you have to find a way to break out, it's your running back, because BYU has a really stout running defense, averaging only 126 yards per game, on the defensive side. So if you have your running back, a la a Miles Montgomery, break it open, get 100+ yard game, you can expect to get maybe a couple hundred yards out of your quarterback and have a chance. You look at it from an offensive, side of the game. On the other side, BYU is a running team. They average 200 yards on the ground. Their passing is a little, averaging about 213 or so. If UCF can break the running game open, I think they can make this game a lot closer than it looks. And that's where a guy like Miles Montgomery, who's back, and he's probably going to get the lion's shares of the carries again, he's going to have to shine.
Yeah, he is definitely going to have to shine. I think it's going to have to be Taven Jackson. Personally, I like
too easy to say the quarterback.
It is, but man, let me tell you something. He's going to have to play the best game of his career and then some. I think because, and the reason why I say this is because his performance will open it up for BYU not to be able to load up the box versus the run game and just say, hey, we're going to dare you to throw. If they do that and you can burn them and you can keep hitting passes, it will open it up for Myles and Gittens, and hopefully those guys can get loose here. You've got to be able to
move the chains.
Yeah, it is.
Move the chains.
Not only move the chains, but convert on third down, stay on the field, and keep their limit offensive possessions for BYU.
Mm-hmm.
Got to limit offensive possessions, not just by getting them off the field with your defense, but staying on the field with your offense.
Which means you don't need a home run ball. You don't. If you work your opportunities, you find your mismatches. You don't have to dink and dunk, but you just have to be smart at it. And you don't have to be greedy. Don't throw deep into triple coverage. Bad idea. We've seen that happen too many times. Take your spots, throw it away if you have to. But the key is you want those sustained drives. When you're playing against a team better than you, the key is keep the offense off the field as much as possible. Give your defense as much rest time because you need them to be on their game as much as possible. And if UCF's offense can execute properly, I mean, we've seen what this defense can do when they're in a good spot. We've also seen what happens when they get completely overmatched. So BYU is not as good as Texas Tech. They settled that on the field the first time. Texas Tech is just a whole nother level. So, I mean, that doesn't mean that UCF doesn't stand a chance here, but the weather is going to be a factor. The home field is going to be a factor. The fact they're not quite as talented is going to be a factor. So they're going to have to play the perfect game in order to potentially win this game.
Agreed. Look, could it be Myles? Could it be Tayven? Who's the hero? Maybe the hero for UCF is special teams. I think they're going to have to show up in this one. We'll talk about if and how they can show up for the UCF Knights versus BYU right after a quick word from our sponsors. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game and want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on anything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. You can even combine all your bets into a same game parlay for a chance at an even bigger payout. This is my favorite thing to do. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team is making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers up to $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's right, up to $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com today and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Special teams. Could we see a punt return for a touchdown, a kickoff for a touchdown? a blocked kick, something, man, they're going to have to find plays in places where it's hard to predict. It's hard to predict that UCF is going to go out and return a kick for a touchdown here. But special teams has been not a negative for UCF this year. But could they show up here in the last game? And certainly when I say special teams, not just in the kick return game, I'm talking about your kicker can't miss field goals in this one. You cannot leave points on the board in this one. You've got to score every single point you can. I think special teams is going to have to be a little bit more than perfect if they expect to pull off the upset versus BYU.
And I think this is an area where UCF is okay. You know, they've got Noah Ruelis, a Grozo semifinalist. He wasn't named a finalist, but I mean, you're still a semifinalist. You had a pretty good year. And he's been a model consistency, 29 of 30 from extra points, 15 of 17 from field goals, and I think as long as a 54-yarder. So, I mean, he's got the leg. The key is you just got to get him in the range. And, you know, he got Big 12 Special Teamer of the Week for his game-winning kick against Oklahoma State this past week. When he was part of the post-game press conference, and he talked, about, preparing for BYU. He was asked, and he said, he trains in Colorado. That's where his coach is. So he's used to the thinner air because the ball travels differently when you're talking cold and thin air. So he said it's something that he's dealt with. I mean, his first 2 years as a kicker, he was at UConn. So it's not like he hasn't dealt with cold before. So I think from the standpoint of place kicking, you're okay. Punter Anthony Veneri, not quite as confident about. He has at times struggled. He's actually done pretty well the last few weeks, but early on, I mean, a lot of his kicks just seem to not have a lot of height to him. But lately, they've been a lot better. He averages about 40 yards a punt, on the whole season. And UCF's return team's not bad. I mean, obviously, you had that big touchdown by Jaden Nixon earlier in the year. You haven't seen a huge amount since then. But between him and Dwayne Thomas and on the kickoff side and Antoine Jackson on the punt side, this is not a bad crew of returners. As you know, punt returns are difficult to really generate a whole lot. So in Jackson's case, he averages over almost 12 yards a return. That's solid. That's really solid. It's 11.9. He's had some big returns in there. So we've seen the potential of what this team can do if just the right chaotic chance, comes into play and he gets the right vision, the right blocking corridor. I mean, as you know, it's so hard to predict how a kick return or a punt return will play out. But I think you got a really talented group of specialists, especially Ruelis at kicker. He's very dependable, and Scott Frost has all the confidence in the world in him. Cole Kozlowski, all the confidence in the world about him. So I think special teams will play a very pivotal role, be it good or bad. Either the kicking game is going to be busy or the punting game is going to be busy. Someone's going to be busy.
You've got one kickoff return for a touchdown so far this year. It was Jaden Nixon that was able to return that one for a TD. Would love to see that. But to your point about Noah, 15 of 17 on field goals so far this year. It's 88% make rate. 29 of 30 on extra points. He's got one missed extra point in there somewhere. That really just chaps you. Hopefully he didn't miss any extra points there. But he's been very, very reliable. Look, he 4 or 5 from 40 to 49 yards. It was really solid. And 3 or 4 from 50 plus. So his 2 misses this year are from beyond 40 yards. From 40 yards and in, perfect. And you're going to need him, I think, to continue that here if you're going to. I know it's boring to talk about special teams, but again, if it's close, right, these are the types of things that show up in games like this. It's suddenly your kicker's made every kick all year, and now you're in it versus BYU. And when the pressure is the highest, shank, push, right? Or kicking kicks out of bounds on the kickoff and giving them the ball at the 35 or the 40, wherever you get it, when you push it out. I've seen this happen in games like this where it's like we are all the routine stuff we do, and then suddenly we're up and our kicker gives BYU great field position because we couldn't just kick it out the back of the end zone like we did every single time. So I don't know that this game is going to be close enough for any of this to matter. But I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about it, because you do never know. You never know. And I talked about this with Jake yesterday on the show. It was, what happens if BYU just doesn't show up? What if they take this game lightly? What if they think, hey, it's just UCF? There's talent on this team, and if you don't bring your, we gave our like 3 reasons why, UCF could win, and one of my reasons is that you show up and you out hustle and you out heart BYU. This your pride has to mean something to you in this one if you're UCF, and if you show up and they're like, and they're taking the game for granted, and you're like, no man, we want to get to a bowl game. You got to remember, senior night was the other night, and let me tell you something. This will be the last college football game potentially for some of these guys, and they don't want to go out losers. And if you're BYU, you may not see that motivation, it may not be obvious to you, but there are a lot of guys on this team that want this, and BYU represents a significant opportunity for them to go out and take down. They're ranked 11, but for all intents and purposes, man, BYU is a top 10 team. Take down a top 10 team. Why wouldn't you want to go out and do that in your last college football game?
Yeah, I have another wild card factor you have to put into this is when the game's being played. This is the first day home game for BYU all year. It's going to be an 11 o'clock local kickoff. UCF played at Baylor. It was an 11 o'clock local kickoff, and UCF was the one that sleptwalked through that one and got absolutely trounced. What's to say that, because it's not even a noon game. I mean, that's the wild part. It's 11 o'clock, which is just a weird time to have in Mountain Time, 1 o'clock Eastern is just a strange time to have a game. Could that have an effect on either team, going into this? UCF has played day games, played night games at home and on the road, but this being the first day game at home for BYU, could it have an impact? Who's to say? But I mean, you can't discount the fact that it exists as a possibility.
Yeah, agreed. Look, they've obviously got to avoid making too many self-inflicted wounds if they expect to have a chance in this one. But what's the one big mistake that UCF has to avoid if they expect to have a chance versus BYU on Saturday? We'll talk about that next, right after a quick word from our sponsors. The holidays always feel a little easier when you already know the perfect gift. And Omaha Steaks makes it almost too simple. Whether you're treating yourself this season or sending something memorable to family and friends, Omaha Steaks delivers handcrafted perfection right to their door. And this week is the best time to jump in because their cyber deals are here. And the deals are huge. The quality is exactly what you hope for. Incredibly tender steaks, rich flavor, and meals that make hosting or weeknight cooking easier. Save big on unforgettable gifts with Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com for 50% off site-wide and an extra 20% off select flavors during their cyber sale. And for an additional $35 off, use promo code COLLEGE at checkout. That's omahasteaks.com, promo code COLLEGE. Terms apply. See site for details. Gonna cook me up some Omaha steaks here tomorrow with the family and the in-laws. If you're watching this, again, happy Thanksgiving to you and yours. We appreciate every single person that has tuned in to turn us on and turn us up here at Locked On UCF. We've had a great year, and we're hoping to cap it with some really good football coverage here at the end. So I'd be remiss if I didn't say happy Thanksgiving to you and yours. I hope you guys eat to your heart's content, and hopefully UCF feasts on BYU on Saturday. the opposite will likely happen, but we'll see. What's the one big mistake, though? If you're Scott Frost, what are you telling your team? If we're going to have a chance in this one, what can't we do? For me, I think it's, again, self-inflicted wounds. I think you cannot shoot yourself in the foot. You cannot commit stupid procedural penalties. You can't jump off sides. You can't have that one dumb, personal foul that's 15 yards at the wrong time. You cannot afford for BYU to goad you into making the types of mistakes that really are just about discipline and self-control. And I think if you can avoid that and you're in it, it gives you a little bit of an extra chance to try to pull off the upset here.
For me, it's remember your assignments, especially on the defensive side of the ball. You're talking about a running team. So your defensive ends, outside containment. You cannot let them get to the outside and turn it upfield. You got to force them back in, like your linebackers, who are great tacklers. Lewis Carter and Cole Kozlowski are tackle machines. However, because you have to know your assignments, Oklahoma State took advantage and was able to do these little ticky-tack slants over the middle and victimize the linebackers in pass coverage. So, you have to remember, how to manage those kind of plays, and you have to have your right attack angles. But if you remember your assignments, the defense can keep, BYU scoring at bay. They average over 33 points per game. This is 33.4. You have a Bear Bachmeier does not turn the ball over, 4 interceptions on the year. So it's going to be really hard to create that big turnover. So the key is force him to kind of thread the needle a bit. If they do their job and keep the running game in control, they can do a lot more over the top and be able to defend against passes and going downfield.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, they've got to do better. They've got to do better than they've done all year, and it needs to come in this moment. If you're Scott Frost, you have a massive opportunity here to send a message to the rest of the Big 12 that UCF is going to be formidable for years to come. Now, Kane Archer decommitted, but you picked up Rocco Marriott, and this is about going and getting the best player available. Now, I'm really sad about Kane Archer. I honestly don't know. I know he's higher rated, but I don't know that Marriott is a better quarterback than Kane Archer. What I do know is that if you're Scott Frost and McKenzie Milton, you've got to get it right. And it is really hard to be the best you can be without a good trigger man at quarterback. So this has to be up to me about setting a stage for recruiting and showing proof of concept and showing recruits, look, man, we're close. We're closer maybe than you think. And if we have you, then we're over the top here. And if you can go out and compete in a game like this, you have a stronger, I think, recruiting pitch to the next stud QB to say, hey, come to UCF. We are 1 or 2 players away from being really, really, really great. I can't wait to see how this one plays out. I know we're not giving UCF much of a chance in this one, Andrew, but I'm actually quietly very excited about this game because whenever you get to take on a really good opponent, it's another opportunity to prove yourself against the very best. BYU, for all intents and purposes, should be in this college football playoff, but they got to get through UCF first. Final words, my friend, here on Thanksgiving. Give me a prediction. I got to get a prediction from you early on this one. What is the score and why?
I'll be honest. I think BYU takes care of business. If they were, 8-3 and they weren't in the CFP hunt, I think this would be a different story. But this is a team that is just on the cusp. They've been disrespected by the CFP committee based on their record and where they're sitting in the standings with other teams around them. And that puts a chip on your shoulder. They've got something to prove. And so they're not going to let UCF hang around because UCF's viewed as a subpar team. So I think they take care of business, 38-13. And they're going to cover the spread, which is last time I checked, it was about 17 points or so. It's probably changed since I last looked. So it's not as bad as Texas Tech, but I mean, it's still a pretty sizable spread. And Vegas is not really thinking much about UCF, upsetting this one. And I don't think the rest of us really are either. It's one of those, you want them to do well. Maybe that chance for an upset from the standpoint of what's best for the conference. You can make arguments both ways of, it's better for BYU to win because you got the possibility of the extra team, the CFP. Oh, it's better UCF wins. You got the extra bowl team. Because right now there are 4 teams in the Big 12 that are 5-6. They all got a chance to become bowl eligible, aside from, I think it's 9 who are already bowl eligible. So, I mean, you've got a chance for up to 13 teams out of 16 going to a bowl game. That's pretty good. So you can make an argument either way of why it's important for the other team to win. But I think BYU is just too good. They're playing at home, in one of the most beautiful backdrops in sports anywhere, with the mountains behind Lavelle Edwards Stadium. It's a bucket list for me to go to one day and see a game there, just because of how beautiful it is. And I don't think UCF's walking away with the win on this one.
Yeah, me neither. I called this one 42-21 yesterday, BYU. So kind of in the same. I think maybe they get that special team score. I just don't think it matters. But hopefully you and I are very, very wrong come Saturday evening. Either way, we'll be here to talk about it after the game. Andrew Glucov, senior writer, UCFKnightZone.com. Well, thank you all for joining me on today's show to talk a little UCF versus BYU. I wish they had more of a chance. I really do. I wish they had more of a chance. I just don't see how this one turns out much different than what we're predicting here. And, again, if it is, if it's in the cards for UCF, Scott Frost, man, what a win this would be. It would be an absolute massive win for Scott Frost. And I almost
if they win this game, someone has to be carried off the field.
Right. Yeah.
Someone.
Yeah.
Not sure who.
Someone gets a Gatorade bath. Yeah. I mean, it's going to be a problem. I don't know what the weather is going to be out there like that. But I did want to mention 17.5 is the spread on this one currently. Over-under is at 47.5. So them maybe expecting a game in the 20s or again, the low 30s for BYU and in the teens for UCF. Let's go on and get out of here, guys. Before we do, I did want to mention to our listeners, YouTube now has a hype button just for the content you love the most, which hopefully is Locked On UCF. If Locked On UCF is delivering the coverage you count on daily, smash that hype button and help the channel reach even more college sports fans. It's a great way to support our work. Smash that hype button. Andrew, we're out of here. We'll be back at you guys tomorrow with more Locked On UCF.